Okay, so this only happened about an hour ago, and I'm still shaking. Before I tell you what happened, I'll give you a bit of detail. I live in Sydney, Australia, in a pretty dodgy neighbourhood, so I'm quite used to creepy and not so very nice people, but this experience is the worst by far. My house backs onto a park with quite a few trees, but they are spaced out, so it's not like bushland. And it's a nice park with a walkway and all the houses in my street line up against it, making it a sort of long wall of house backyard fences, if that makes sense. Because of this, I have a very small backyard. Anyway, on with the story. I was just about to go to bed and had finished locking my front door and the windows. All I had to do was lock the back door, but before I did, I decided to open it and have a look outside. Just to check the weather and see if my two cats were out there and laying around. I was looking around when a faint flicker of light from one of the treetops caught my eye. It was weird considering there are no lights in the park, and I got worried that there might be a fire starting. I decided to take a closer look, but as soon as I stepped outside, the now clearly visible flame vanished. The flame had come from the tree closets to my back fence, so it was possible to see shapes and movements even in the darkness. I was certain it was from a lighter. Someone had climbed up the tree and was either lighting a smoke or trying to start a fire. This scared the living shit out of me, because if he was just lighting a cigarette, that meant he was spying on all the houses and had just seen me in my pajamas. And if he was starting a fire, the whole park could go in flames, and the houses too. Australia in the summer can be very dangerous, and bushfires damage homes, wildlife and nature, and kill many people too. I ran inside and slammed the door. My father then yelled at me for making such a loud noise and waking him up. I apologized but didn't tell him what was going on just in case I was overly paranoid. I continued to stand with the back door shut and locked, but watched to see what the man was doing. I saw the lighter once more, and then the end of a cigarette light up. He was smoking. I could now see my cat was staring at him too, and her fur was all puffed up, and after reading posts like this, I didn't want him to hurt her. Along with the fact that in my area, many animals and humans are killed and harmed by people whacked on drugs, in gangs, or just stupid teens trying to have fun and hurting innocent animals. So I decided to go outside and get her. I ran out and picked up my cat. As I was almost inside, I turned to see what the man was doing. I could see the whites of his eyes. He was staring right at me. I froze for a moment and then started to go back into the house quickly and quietly. But before I could even get my body halfway through the door, the man lunged out of the tree and onto my back fence. He threw the cigarette at my other cat, who had now climbed out of a flower pot and was hissing. He missed and my cat is fine. I ran inside and locked the door. The man proceeded to jump into my backyard and bolt for my cat. Luckily, my cat ran through the cat door and my other cat was still in my arms. I put a large heavy box in front of the cat door to block it. I had once again woken up my dad by being so noisy. He came out yelling at me and telling me to go into my fucking room and shut up as he has to go to work early in the morning. I softly apologized, as all I could manage was a small squeak from being so scared, and I didn't want to piss him off further. I told him to look out the back, but not to open the door. He looked at me like I was insane, probably thinking there was some kind of small rodent outside that had frightened me or attacked the cats. He made an annoyed groan and went to have a look. As soon as he looked outside, he froze. Without looking at me, he told me to call the police and see if I can get my neighbours. I called the cops while sprinting to my neighbours' houses and telling them what was happening. When I came back, my dad was yelling at the guy and telling him to get the fuck out of there before the cops came, or my dad decides to kill him himself. Now just some quick info, my dad is a very scary man, very tall and muscular and ex-army too. Nobody fucks with him. But this guy, this insane man, stared at him and slowly pulled a knife from his boots and started cutting my screen door, making a hole to try and get through. My screen door has bars on it and the man could not fit through them. Yet there he was, half his body through the hole, trapped by the bars, trying to open the glass sliding door. yelling at my father about how he'd never see me again and the awful things that he and his friends would do to me. By this point, one of my neighbours had gone into the park with his large German Shepherd and taser and was planning on jumping over my fence and ambushing the guy. Just as he was about to do this, the police I called for arrived and barged past my father, myself and my other neighbour. They then proceeded to tell the man to step away from the door and drop his knife. The man turned around and tried to bolt, but before he could, my neighbour's dog tackled him into the ground and bit him, allowing the cops to arrest the guy. They put him into a car, but he just kept staring at me the whole time, never taking his eyes off me. I felt so violated and vulnerable. They took our statements and that's all that has happened. He's in police custody and we're waiting to see what will happen next. My dad told me that when he looked outside the first time, he saw the man trying to look through our windows with his pants on the ground. He could have possibly been taking a whiz, or well, the other obvious thing. I was and still am very shaken up by this event and have gone to stay with my aunt for the night so I don't have to be in my house. When I was 18 years old, I worked as a lifeguard in Toronto, Canada. I had been doing this job for 2 years and worked at a lot of different pools. I had picked up this shift that was every Friday night 6:30 PM to 10:30 PM during the winter season, also known as the loser shift for people who don't have anything fun to do on Friday nights. In early December, I was the only one left in the pool building on my Friday shift at about 10:30 PM. The pool building is attached to a main community centre that has an ice rink and gym in it, but the pool building has a completely different entrance and parking lots than the community centre. Anyway, I was about to lock up and drop the key off at the main building when I saw a girl waiting outside in the parking lot. She was about 10 years old, and I recognised her as one of the people who came for free swim during my shift. I was just about to ask her if she wanted to come and wait inside, because it was freezing outside when the phone rang. I went back into the staff office to answer the call, and after I was done, the girl was gone. I assumed her parents had come to pick her up or something. I then grabbed my stuff, turned the lights off, and locked the door to drop off the key, and then walk home. I was walking across the parking lot for about 15 meters when I heard a faint muffled scream. I turned around quickly and saw a truck idling at the far end of the parking lot. It was kinda far away, and I had to squint my eyes to see what was going on. To my horror, I realised the man was bent over and struggling to get something into his trunk. I moved a little closer towards the truck and saw that the man was wearing all black and had a scarf covering half his face. Then I saw a girl's arm trying to hold the trunk open while the man was trying to shut it. She had her legs sticking out of the trunk too, kicking and also holding the trunk open. I recognised her as the girl that was waiting outside before. I noticed her bright pink winter jacket. 2 seconds after I realised what was going on, I started panicking and looking for my phone in my bag. The parking lot was completely empty, other than that one truck. It was dimly lit and the ground was very icy. I looked up once I found my phone at the bottom of my bag. The man stopped struggling to get the girl into the trunk and turned his face to me. As quickly as possible, I turned around and started running back towards the pool door. I looked over my shoulder while I was cautiously running, trying not to slip on the ice. He was charging towards me. I was about 10 meters away from the door, and he had gotten significantly closer to me. I started screaming, but it was hard to scream while running. I got to the door, and struggled to get the keys out of my coat pocket. He was about 5 meters away when I unlocked the door and shut it behind me, then locked it. I called the cops on my phone and told the operator what was happening, and she said the police were on their way. It was terrifying to watch the man come right up to the door and try to open it, looking at me through the glass window at the top of the door. He banged on it and was yelling at me. I couldn't really hear what he was saying though. I then gave him the finger, and then I think he realised that I was on the phone, and then he took off. It was horrifying to be behind the building door and not to be able to see what was going on with the truck and the girl. I heard sirens pull into the parking lot about 5 long minutes after he left. I then felt that it was safe to open the door and walk outside. When I got outside, the girl was running towards the police cars and the truck was nowhere to be seen. Turns out that he lured the girl into his truck, not really sure how, and then he tried to abduct her. Once he stopped the banging on the portal, he ran back to his car, threw the girl out of the trunk, then sped out of the parking lot, never to be seen again. I gave the police my statement, and as far as I know, he was never caught. I should start this by saying that my biological father has been dead for some time. In fact, he committed suicide soon after this incident I'm about to describe. My parents were married for 16 years and had dated through high school. In fact, they were a trophy couple, as in, they were homecoming king and queen. My mum was a librarian but was elected county clerk when I was 14. We live in a house that has a creek nearby, and on the nights that my dad was off, he would go down there and fish rather than sleep, because it was easier to keep sleeping during the daytime. When I was 15, I started smoking cigarettes. Don't judge me, I've quit. One Saturday, I was desperate for a smoke. I knew that my dad kept a few packs in his fishing tackle box, and since he was asleep, I slipped down to the basement where he kept the box. I had no idea what I was in for. The box had a lock on it that could only be opened with a key. Being the sneaky little jerk that I am, I snatched the key from his room. I opened the box. I can still remember the click of the key. My first thoughts were, sweet, I can have a cigarette now. For those who smoke, the thought of smoking is actually better than doing it. Inside were several instant developed photos. And for those who don't know what I'm talking about, these were actual cameras that flashed and the photos slipped right out. Anyway, the first one I saw showed my dad standing over a horse. He was holding a bloody machete, and I saw quite clearly that the poor animal was cut open. There were several photos like that of various farm animals. I almost threw up right then and there. To this day, I still get sick just thinking about it. But the murdered farm animals weren't the only things I saw. There were photos of my father wearing lingerie handcuffed to beds with writing on his body in lipstick. There were photos of him wearing S&M outfits, and one showed him with a very young girl that still horrifies me to this day. She was completely naked with chains around her neck with my father in S&M. I had no idea what to do. I decided to call my mother, who was at her office. I told her I needed her there immediately. She knew I was serious, so she got home very quickly. My dad was still asleep. I took her downstairs and showed her the photos. We left the house and went to her sister's that very day. The police were called, and they discovered that my dad had been having an affair with a 19-year-old S&M fetish enthusiast who was also the one who took the photos of him in the lingerie. He pled guilty to the animal cruelty charges and hung himself the first night in prison. But that's not the end of it. When my aunt heard what happened, I can still remember how she looked. Her skin went completely white, and I thought she was having a heart attack. She told my mother that he was caught torturing animals when he was younger, and she had caught him going through her underwear. She even said that she once woke up to him masturbating over her bed. Luckily, that's all over. My mum married a good guy who's hopefully not a complete perv. It's been 20 years, but I can still remember the shock I had when I opened that tackle box. So this just happened. Bit of background of the last 25 minutes. I just got home from a reasonably big night. It's 4:30 AM and stinking hot in this part of Australia right now. I walked in the door and opened the fridge and was so happy to find 3 icy cold beers in the fridge. I took 2 of them and walked upstairs to bed to read and drink myself into a boozy sleep. First issue. The beers are not twist tops, and after some sloppy drunken attempts at using the handle of the drawer of my bedside table, I head back downstairs to use an actual bottle opener. I turn on the kitchen lights. I squint around to find the bottle opener, which I can't find. So I use the solid edge of a large kitchen knife. It's a risky choice, but the bottle cap is now off the beer, and I'm happy. I turn off the alien blinding kitchen light and go to head upstairs. But something through the front window of my house that looks onto the street catches my eye. I stop at the bottom of the stairs, and all the hairs on the back of my neck and arms stand up. I turn my head slowly, and my eyes and brain are trying to make sense of what is going on and what I'm looking at. It looks like a rain-drenched woman in a fancy white dress gazing at me through the window. Oh fuck it actually is. I pause and take the longest inhale of my life. She's glaring at me like she hates me. She has mascara running down her face, and she's drenched from the rain. Her arms are extended, and she's leaning her head towards me like her body language was trying to say, "Look at me. Look at what you've done." I'm shitting bricks, but the rational side of my brain kicks in and I think, shit, is she okay? Does she need help? I slowly walk over to the window, her gaze still locked onto mine. We are now literally within 1 meter of each other. I state loudly through the glass, "Are you okay? Do you need help? Is anyone with you?" Then it dawns on me. My gate is locked, and there is an 8-foot high fence which is very difficult to climb. How does she get in? She doesn't respond to my inquiry. She just keeps that hateful look in her eyes. We stood there for about another 30 seconds. I was looking around nervously trying to make sense of this, and she was just glaring into my soul. And then she finally opened her mouth as if to say something. Finally. But it wasn't words that came out of her mouth. It was an insanely high-pitched meow. And then she starts clawing at the window with her novelty-sized fingernails. What the fuck? I'm frozen. I don't know what to do. She's clearly not very well. Not very well at all. Then in the background behind the fence, I see another woman, 20-something years old, dressed in a short black club dress with the glow of her phone lighting up her face. She sees the woman in white at my window and yells, "Michelle, you pissed bitch, that's the wrong fucking house." The rain-soaked nightmare Catwoman's eyes go from, "I hate you and I want you to die," to, "Oh my god, I'm so sorry." And then she runs over to the fence and impressively Army Commando flings herself over it. I can then hear a group of ladies pissing themselves, laughing, saying how Jason's house is number 25, not number 23, you fucking idiot. That poor guy is probably going to call the cops now. All I know is that I'm so happy that I was on the receiving end of a misdirected prank, and I didn't have to be killed by a well-dressed hybrid cat demon woman. And now I have to go back down to the kitchen to open my other beer, but I'm still too afraid.